Welcome back to another episode of Ari Squared. We are your hosts, Ari Lev and Ari Berkowitz, coming to you on a Thursday. Before we go any further, guys, let's grow the Ari Squared community. Let's hit up our YouTube and give us a subscribe. Let's go on our Instagram and give us a follow. Find us on whatever podcast platform you prefer to use, and let's go ahead and grow the community. And I just also want to say, Ari, as a beginner, go Teams Canada and Teams USA, who have both advanced to the next stage of the knockout round in the World Cup. So I know we're a football podcast, but finally our teams are doing something in the World Cup, so we might as well say something about it. So
you should have said, I know we're a football podcast, but not that kind of football.
That's what you see. See, that's why you're here, Ari. It's for wit and banter, my friend. Wit and banter. So I just thought I'd give a shout out, and I got the ability, since Canada beat South Africa, I got it to rub in some of my South African friends' faces. Again, not that I care about Canada, and especially given the way it looks, but with that being said, it is the World Cup, and it's pretty cool to see that non-European teams are actually progressing forward in the knockout stage. So congratulations to Team USA. Congratulations to Team Canada. And that is all I have to say on that type of football, man.
And all I'd like to say is that you love rubbing in South Africans' faces. So I'm happy you got another privilege to do that.
Nice.
Anyways, from the ridiculous to the serious, I just wanted to add and make note of something that our listeners do not know about. But I felt that it was this had to be mentioned, and I just wanted to tell everyone that this past Erev Shabbat, this past Friday, Ari was back from he's doing Miluim reserve duty in the army right now, and he came back for his daughter's birthday party. And a neighbor had a terrible fire break out in their backyard. He jumped into action, got all of the kids out of that property, the house, the backyard. He was able, with someone else's help, to start to smother the fire even before the firemen came in. Ari, I know that you suffered from smoke inhalation, the whole thing, and ended up in the hospital. But I just wanted to say, for modern day acts of heroism, first of all, I was just blown away myself. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story. I can't believe that I am talking and I have the privilege of having an actual podcast with a real hero. It was an unbelievably heroic action. I know as the hero, you always make light of it, but I mean, you saved lives. You saved a house. And it's an incredible story, and I really wanted to share it with our listeners.
Ari, I really appreciate your very, very kind words. Unnecessary, but I'll just say on this, and we'll move on with the rest of the podcast. I'm just happy that I was in the right place in the right time and be able to do something that I hope that everyone in my position would have gone ahead to do. And at the end of the day, all that matters is that the kids got out safely, the house was okay, and nobody got hurt, and that's what matters most. So thank you for your very, very kind words. It's very appreciated, and thank you.
My pleasure. So I know that you wanted to go into discussing significant football topics, so why don't we hop right into that, Ari?
Sure, absolutely. One I would say is I would call it, I guess there's no better way to call it than, just terrible news coming out of the NFL world. And what I'm referring to is the Chris Johnson ALS diagnosis. He went on Good Morning America earlier this week with Michael Strahan, and he was talking about, him having ALS and how the situation has gotten so bad that he can't even hold the cup anymore. And, you just see such a dynamic athlete, in his prime, the most electric, most exciting running back in the NFL, during his prime. And, first running back, or I should say rather second running back to hit 2,000 plus yards, and just an absolute electric running back, great guy off the field as well. He's married, has 4 kids. He's just 39 years old. And, ALS, unfortunately, is just a terrible, terrible, terrible disease that really just makes life very difficult on anybody who has it and those around them. And I hope that a cure can be found for him, for other people who have ALS. And I really just wish him and his family the absolute best. And, it just shows you. And, I feel like moments like these are just kind of very sombering for a moment where, it doesn't matter, how much money you have or what kind of, sports accolades you have, you own or have created. When a disease like this hits, it doesn't care about your background, your net worth or anything. It can really just hit anyone. And so I really, truly hope that he can get the help that he can need. And maybe in enough time, a cure will be created. And really just shout out and best wishes to Chris Johnson and his family. Really incredible dude. Who are these are one of those moments where you are shockingly on mute during our podcast.
Oh no, that was too bad. I don't know how that happened, honestly. I just said well said, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Chris Johnson, as well as anyone who's suffering the plight of ALS, just terrible diagnosis overall. That being said, he is trying very hard to raise awareness and bringing back the ice water challenge or the ice bath challenge. I can't remember exactly what
ALS
it's called.
ice challenge, yeah.
The ice challenge, yes.
ALS ice bucket
challenge. There we go. The ice bucket challenge. So with that in mind, if any of our listeners want to sponsor us doing the ice bucket challenge, we will do it on a live stream while talking football. So if anyone wants to sponsor that, and we'll try to get very widespread notice for this on social media. If anyone is up to that, just drop us a line and we will talk you through it.
Love that, Ari. I love that idea. And yeah, I will happily take a bucket of ice water over the head to raise awareness for such an important cause.
Absolutely. So with that being said, should we jump into our AFC West breakdown and preview?
Yeah, it's a difficult transition. We definitely have started off this podcast on a more somber note. That's
very serious topics.
Yes, very serious topics. But with that being said, I feel like this is the resilience of people in general, and us as Jewish people, we are resilient and we know how to transition from somber to celebratory. So let's get this podcast back on track and bring our usual entertainment and banter. And with that, Ari, let's officially kick off our AFC West preview. To remind our listeners, we are doing all of the divisions breakdowns, news and notes, different things, key additions, etc. And while we were supposed to do this in last week's episode, we did not have the time to give it its proper the amount of time that it deserved. And therefore we decided to punt it, no pun intended, over to this week's episode instead. And because this is going to be, we discussed when we were talking about the NFC East about possibly being the most competitive division in football. I think if we're looking for an AFC West equivalent, it would be the AFC West division. I think that there are, every team potentially, aside from maybe the Raiders, and even them, maybe a little lightning in the bottle for Fernando Mendoza and Clint Kubiak, with Tom Brady kind of overseeing things. And who knows, maybe we could see them making a run as well. But either way, between the Chiefs, who are absolutely back, the Broncos, who were literally a broken ankle away from representing the AFC in the Super Bowl last year, and the Chargers, especially now with the addition of Mike McDonald as the OC. This is really going to be a wild division that is going to push and challenge the rest of the AFC and the rest of the NFL for that matter. So, Ari, which of the teams would you like to highlight first?
Well, I think that the most interesting pivot team to me in that division is the Chargers. To me, and you called him Mike McDonald, but we all know you meant Mike McDaniel.
Yes, always. By the way, as a given, we know that I'm going to get his name wrong. So you knew exactly who I was talking about.
Oh, and we've talked about in the past about how the NFL has this very strange thing going back like 25 years now, where they've maintained 2 Mike Macks, but no more and no less as head coaches in the NFL. And this has been cemented by the fact that Mike McDaniel was fired as a head coach and Mike McCarthy was brought back as a head coach. So it's just a very strange and peculiar time for Mike Macks in the NFL. That being said, moving along, basically, I think that the Chargers, between the fact that their tackles, who arguably are the best, you can make the case that they're the best bookend tackles in the NFL, at least on paper. And they were out for tons of games last year, barely played. Between that, the fact that Mike McDaniel is there, as well as another year of all of their intriguing young players that they picked up in last year's draft. Their running back escapes my is it Omarion Hampton? Is that the name of their running back?
Yeah.
I always get confused because they have Omarion Hampton at running back, and then Oronde Gadsden is their tight end. As well as a huge step forward from their wide receiver Johnston. McConkey wasn't as good last year, but basically, you just look overall at the amount of offensive talent they have, and then you take into consideration that they've been injecting first-round talent into their defense all of these years, and it's just a very interesting, it's the kind of thing where they've never quite put it together. And I'm not saying that it's definitely going to be this year, but it also would not shock me if they finally put things together and they look like the best team in the NFL for the 2026 season. So that's why I think that they're fascinating. But you tell me what you think about the Chargers, Ari, and then you can also go into if you wanted to highlight a different team.
So I agree with you in terms of intrigue. Yeah, the Chargers, if this can finally be the year where they put it all together, they keep the players who seem to keep getting injured, they manage to keep them on the field, and everything just comes together at once. Yeah, this is a team that since they've drafted Justin Herbert, and certainly since they went ahead and got Jim Harbaugh, this is a team that every year coming into the season, we have an expectation that is going to be Super Bowl bound. It just hasn't happened yet. Will their new OC end up being the it factor that really gets them across the finish line? Yeah, it might very possibly be. So I agree with you. They're absolutely the most intriguing team in the AFC West. I am going to highlight, though, a different team. I'm going to highlight the Chiefs because, there was a lot of chatter about, they're done, dynasty over, that's it. And, I think anybody who's coming out and saying that is not very smart because they were nothing more. Yes, did their season end without a playoff run? Yeah. Is that shockingly odd with between Andy Reid and Mahomes at the helm? Is that shockingly odd? Yes, it is shockingly odd. But anybody who thinks for one moment that they are not coming back with a chip on their shoulder, a bitter taste in their mouths, and aren't going to return to glory, you're crazy, and you don't watch the NFL. So I think the Chiefs are going to go on a run. Do I think that they're necessarily going to win the Super Bowl? No, I'm not. We need to see Patrick Mahomes really fully come back from injury, despite all signs showing that he's going to do that. Kelsey needs to show that he's still got something left in the tank. Shout out, by the way, to Travis Kelsey and the New Heights podcast. He will be getting married apparently tomorrow in Madison Square Gardens. So mazel tov and congratulations to Travis Kelsey, to Taylor Swift, to Jason Kelsey, to Don Mama Kelsey, to all the Swift family, to all the Kelsey family, Mazel Tov, and I wish you guys many, many years of blissful enjoyment and happiness, and hopefully no divorce album from Taylor, because that'll be disastrous. Anywho, I mean, it'll be a great album, but like, I'm hoping that we avoid it and they really go the distance. And, Travis is just a good dude. Like our listeners know, I'm a huge fan of the New Heights podcast. And I really, to see what two brothers have been able to achieve, forgetting on the football field, what they've been able to turn their podcast into is really an inspiration and something that I hope for us at RE Squared. But getting back to football, the point is I would not count out the Chiefs in any way. And it's going to be interesting. Thoughts, Ari, on the Broncos as we move through the AFC West?
So very, very interestingly, right before we get into the Broncos, I would kind of like to ask you a follow-up question on the Chiefs.
Okay.
Going into this season, I think that it's clear, and this is why it touches on the Broncos, is that you would agree with me that the Broncos definitely have the best defense in the AFC West.
Yeah.
Do you think the Chiefs have the best offense heading into the 2026 season in the AFC West? And do you think that it's close or it's clear cut?
Ooh, that's a great question, Ari. That's a difficult thing to answer, because if we break it down position by position within the offense, I would say is, do they have the best quarterback in Mahomes? Yes. To tell you that they definitely have the best running game with Kenneth Walker, I don't know. To say that they have the best wide receiver core, I don't think I could say that. Do they have the best tight end room? Probably not. So I don't know. I don't know if I could say that they have the best offense in the AFC West. I think that they have the best QB in Mahomes, which could in turn have him elevate the less than elite talent around him to be the best offense in the AFC West. But if we are talking position by position pure talent, no, the Chiefs are not the best offense in the AFC West.
And you would give that to the Chargers, I assume, as the best offense in the AFC West, then, with the
again, if they can stay healthy,
yeah, just on paper. So
yes, on paper, yes, they would.
Which brings me then to the Broncos, which basically just shows you the importance of their Jalen Waddle addition, because beforehand, I mean, they were significantly closer on offense with their playmakers to where the Raiders are than the Chiefs or the Chargers. And now the interesting thing is, with as good of a defense as they have, and Bo Nix as an ascending quarterback, and an interesting group of running backs, a good offensive line with a phenomenal tackle, do they have enough playmakers on offense to not go backward this year? Like, do you think that they are positioned well enough to continue that ascension? Or do you think that with as good as the Chiefs are going to be, and the Chargers always being there, and the Raiders being a better team, do you think that we've kind of seen peak Broncos and what it could be, which is ending at almost the Super Bowl? Or do you think that we're going to see a continued ascension of their offense, and because they did enough with their playmakers?
I think they're going to continue to ascend. I do believe, and I agree with you, the Waddle addition feels kind of like the missing piece that they needed on that offense. Bo Nix, you can say what you want about the dude, but the dude's a winner. Like, could I see him doing it on another team without Sean Payton? Probably not. But in Sean Payton's system, the dude wins. The dude has won a lot of games since he came in. And, I feel like teams that like almost get there, right? They were almost representing the AFC in this year's Super Bowl. They're going to have hunger. They're going to want to show everybody, that wasn't a one-off fluke. we can do it. We can get back to the mountaintop. And so, yeah, I do actually think give Bo Nix another year in the system, give him a true number one wide receiver in Waddle, which he is yet to have, which also not only, gives you a better overall wide receiver to throw to, but it also might cause and generate double teams, which in turn will then open up opportunities for wide receiver 2, 3, their running backs and their tight ends. And so I do believe that they can go a step forward. Does it mean that they're winning the division? Not necessarily, but I don't think we have reached the peak of the potential there. I think they can keep going up.
Well put. So yeah, and then it basically comes down to the Raiders, and overall, I mean, I don't see them as a playoff contender this year, given the greenness of Mendoza and Kubiak. I do agree that they could surprise, and they did have a fantastic offseason injecting very important players like Tyler Linderbaum into their organization. And it looks like it's going to be a very serious, changing of the tide there. But I still see them picking in the top 10 of next year's draft. There's just so many very good football teams in the NFL. I know we already covered the AFC South, and we talked about how each one of those teams have merit. And I see the Raiders much more online with those teams than I do with the behemoths in the AFC West, and therefore I can very well see them, picking at 8th, 9th, 10th overall in next year's draft. Why do you think the Raiders have the chance to surprise us this year, Ari? And why do you think that they have an outside chance at reaching the playoffs?
All right, so great question. The way I see it is this. Number one, they are a fringe playoff team at best, all right? They are not in the conversation for winning the AFC West. They're not. That'll go to one of the other three teams in the division. There are those three teams, and then the Raiders well below them. The reason why I think that they could surprise some teams is the following. Number one, what Clint Kubiak was able to achieve with the Seahawks last year and that offense, I do believe that he can bring some of that magic to him, to the Raiders. That's one. Two, Fernando Mendoza is a winner. That guy is going to work harder than anyone else, and he is going to do everything he possibly can to help his team win. Whether or not he is starting QB in week 1, or if that goes to wow. Why am I blanking on his name?
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah, it's Kirk Cousins. Sorry, I'm like, what?
You probably it's one of those moments where you could see the guy's face and you're like, what is that guy called again? It's so strange.
Exactly. So
strange.
You have Kirk Cousins there mentoring him, pushing him. You've got Tom Brady overseeing it all. I do believe that and like you had mentioned, they did have a very good offseason, both with free agents they brought in and people they drafted. Could I potentially see them going 9-8 if everything really, really, really goes well and, some of those one-score games tip in their favor? Yeah, I could see that happening. Does that mean that 9-8 is going to be good enough to make the 7th seed in the AFC? Probably not. But that's where my confidence, again, it's not high. I agree with you. The Raiders are more likely to be picking in the top 10 next season than they will be a playoff team. I'm 100% with you. But I do have a certain amount of confidence for all the reasons I just mentioned that could possibly make them a 9-8 team, fringe 7th seed.
I hear. It's really interesting, and one of the things that I'm most curious to see about the Raiders is actually how Clint, and I find this so important for first year head coaches, and that's first year offensive head coaches especially, is how they manage the other side of the ball, because we all know that Clint Kubiak knows his shit on offense, and he knows how to make a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, as we've seen in the past. And anyone who doesn't know this about Clint Kubiak, I seriously, strongly suggest look back at his history and how he consistently comes into specific situations, and the quarterback play on that team improve tremendously. And we're not just talking about one time, we're not just talking about 2 times. So the fact that he has his handpicked quarterback and he's going into this with him from the beginning, great. But how will he handle defense? And, I'm a little bit curious about the defense coordinator that they hired in Rob Leonard. Like, that was a little bit of a strange one to me. I would have gone like with a much more veteran presence. And I'm very curious to see how that shakes out. And especially considering he was already on the staff, like he was a homer and everything. So I'd like to see that work. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a one and done guy, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And I did specifically want to go there. We can, if you'd like, give our rankings for.
Oh yeah, I was just
West.
about to ask if you what are your rankings in terms of division? So
the reason why I was like saying maybe it doesn't even pay to do this, because we all put this out there when we did our top 10 teams, and it was made very clear that we both have Chiefs number 1 in the division. I have the Chargers 2, you have the Broncos 2. I have the Broncos 3, you have the Chargers 3, and then we both have the Raiders number 4. And we'd both be pretty surprised to different extents if 3 of those teams did not end up in the AFC playoffs. As I mean, it's easier for me, or even both of us, to think of them all as the 3 best teams in the AFC overall. Like, obviously the Bills are there, the Bengals are, there are other teams there, but it would be less shocking if the 3 best teams next year were the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Chargers than if even one of those teams did not make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Oh, you're well said, Ari, and I absolutely agree with you. And so, fine, to put a button kind of in the AFC West talk, give me a bold take for the AFC West this season.
Ooh, a bold take for the AFC West. So I mean, again, like, it's kind of built into everything that I've been saying. For the Chargers to make it to the Super Bowl as the AFC as the AFC what's that called?
Conference representative?
Thank you. That's what it's called. To represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and for it to be an all LA Super Bowl. That is my call.
Oh, I like that. By the way, that would, to quote Kirk Cousins, you like that? It would be very cool to actually have that Super Bowl, because we very recently, that trend broke in 2020 with the Bucs, where there had never been a home team playing in their own stadium for the Super Bowl. Then it happened with the Bucs, and then it happened again with the Rams. What's obviously never happened is when 2 teams from the same stadium both make it to the Super Bowl. So just for that kind of anomaly in itself, it would be very cool to have that. But it would not be shocking to see a Rams-Chargers Super Bowl in the slightest. So I think that's
in LA. It's in SoFi.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be the most watched event in American history and the highest grossing revenue event probably of all time. And that's the year of the Cup, the World Cup happening in America. So that I think that, like, the NFL money gods will line up on this, and it's gonna happen and create like this nuts buzz.
I think you mean the NFL script writers.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I would say some things, and I decided not to go there with some of the.
We all know the NFL scripted. Come on, Ari. Don't be naive.
Oh, no. I was going to say some not nice things about the Jews that are writing said script. And then I decided
okay. All right.
Hold back and not say that in something that we are publishing on the internet. So especially during these times, and especially with the way some of us are considered and others, and we're all about liberal and equality here, and we want everyone to feel welcome. So with that being said, let's review defense. No, I'm kidding. Ari. So please save me from what I'm saying and have something to say.
Yeah, you are definitely suffering from some logorrhea there, so I will save you from yourself. My bold take for the AFC West is going to be Bo Nix leading all QBs in the AFC West in touchdown passes.
That's a good one. I can so see that happening also. I really like that. I really like that. So yours is really real. Mine is like a cool fantasy. So I appreciate
I think yours is like yes, would it be cool if Bo Nix ended up leading in touchdown passes? Great. Yeah, sure. If we had a Chargers Rams Super Bowl in SoFi, oh come on, that's so much cooler.
All right, I'll take it. All right, so let's talk defense and structures a little bit. We missed it on last week's pod. I actually just want to be on the record and go ahead and say that I sent you something wrong in our notes. And we're covering covers 5 through 8 and not 4s through 4 through 6. I apologize for that. But there's still a lot of good information there. And basically, I'll just go into saying that coverages 5 through 8 are kind of made up, and they're all just offshoots off of variations of covers 2 through 4. And these were all created by pretty much 2 people specifically, and that's Nick Saban and Vic Fangio. Bill Belichick was like the first one to really play around with mirror concepts on defense, which means that you have man coverage on one side of the ball and zone coverage on the other side of the ball. Nick Saban, as one of Belichick's most important disciples, is really took this to the next level at Alabama when they kept on winning, and when spread offenses in college just went, just exploded. And then when people like Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, and a few others started adapting those spread concepts into the West Coast offense in the NFL, more and more teams started using the Saban style defense of what's called shells and Meg, and we'll go into all of this in a little bit more detail, but not too crazy. And Vic Fangio pioneered a just predominant 2-safety shell template that basically allows him to roll into different coverages and disguise, whether he is blitzing, playing zone, playing man, or basically he has this concept where before the snap, the 2 safeties can switch, and they literally just switch what they're doing. So say for example, you're facing the Chiefs, and this is back. We'll make it simple for everyone, and we'll call it, you have Tyreek Hill in the slot on one side, and you have Travis Kelce on the line of scrimmage on the other side, and all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill, a pre-snap, moves to the other side of the ball. And previously, you had zone brackets to cover Tyreek on one side of the ball and man concept on the other. You can literally flip that around, and you can play one-man coverage on whomever the receiver was left out wide on one side, and then you can play a bunch of different kinds of zones on the other side, and this would be a flipping of cover 6 to cover 8, and that's basically what Fangio created. So everything that Fangio does is 2 deep, 4 under out of that basic zone shell, and then the way that it works, if you think of the safeties at the top and the corners at the bottom and the linebackers in the middle with a nickel, is just the difference between how many players are going to basically cover each specific player and determining whether it's going to be via zone or via man and which players get which kind of treatment. So, Ari, I'll throw it back to you. I just threw out a bunch of information. What do you take out of everything that I said, and do you have any follow-up questions?
So I think, first of all, thank you for the detailed explanation. And, for me, it's kind of cool because I had heard of all these terms, in various forms, sports broadcasters, etc. And even I, being the NFL, mega fan that I am, I never fully had like that deep understanding of the different coverages and the way that you kind of laid them out. So I just on my end kind of found that to be very interesting to have an understanding of what I'm seeing on the field. What I think is interesting is the way the NFL continues to be this chess match where offenses continue to evolve and think of the rise, we spoke about this in the past of like 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and how you now in turn have to adapt with your defense in order to do that. And it's just, and then on the flip side, you've got like newer coverages or now we see it at an all-time high. We see all these defensive coordinators who they mix and match, and all of a sudden, the same look, one play, 9 guys are blitzing, the next play, 4 guys are dropping into coverage, and then the third play after that, it's like a mix of both. So we're moving away. I feel like base defenses have, even the base themselves have evolved, and then what those base defenses quickly kind of spawn off into makes it even more interesting. So kind of being able to have a better understanding of exactly what these coverages are is very interesting to me. Now, I have a question, though. In the same way that we've seen defenses kind of evolve, we've seen these, different, very famous, legendary, whether they were head coaches or just as DCs, really make these insane defenses that, everybody mimics, right? So you would mention Fangio, Saban, and Belichick. Who, in your opinion, across the NFL now amongst the DCs and or head coaches, who are the next kind of innovators and coaches that we're going to then say, oh, this is a system that Coach Minter, just throwing a name out there, Coach Minter, he was the one who came up with coverage 6, 7, which is now being used across the NFL today. So who, in your opinion, are those, let's say, newer or already are and or are trending towards being those types of coaches?
So that's a fantastic question. And just to go backward 1 second, whether if we have time for it in our next podcast or the one after that, I think that the next evolution of what we're discussing here is discussing it actually as an evolution, meaning now people like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Clint Kubiak and all of those people of that specific Shanahan West Coast system are starting to build in these 3 tight end packages, which if you think about the field as 2 halves, the way that you totally blow that up is by running a lot of big guys into the middle of the field that are athletic, and tight ends are more athletic and better, more adept at catching passes than ever before. Yeah. So this concept is going to be something of a challenge for defensive coordinators. And I got to say that one person comes to mind specifically that handled this in a completely different way than before and is very adept at knowing how to stop the run as the key element in playing defense, unlike Fangio, Saban, or Belichick later on in his career. Obviously started off that way. And that's Brian Flores. Brian Flores, to me, who, by the way, comes from the same tree as Belichick and Saban, but the way that he's kind of revolutionized defense, and what he did with the Vikings last year with really like not such noteworthy players, and put together this defense that just played as a unit, that knew how to take assignments, knew how to stop the run, and had everything stem from there. I think is very possibly the next trend-setting defense. I'd like to see it for one more year. You know, I'd like to see him able to do this one more year. We've all seen, you know, the please remind me, the defense coordinator of the Giants, big guy with a goatee. He was great with the Ravens, and he was really good with the Giants for Wink
Martindale.
Yes, that guy. So that's like the classic DC where it's like he'll have randomly like a top 5 defense for like a year and a half, and then it just like go, and it's just like a smoke and mirrors routine. So I don't think that that's the case with Brian Flores, but I would like to see it for 2 full seasons before anointing him with this. And there's this whole trend of like these young defensive coordinators and head coaches like Mike McDonald or Robert Saleh even, that we can definitely see shape that next era of defensive thought, but it's too pre-baked at this point. We really got to see how, and everyone's talking about this, how much McVay, Shanahan, Kubiak are going to lean into that 3 tight ends, and the fact that the next constellation of the 3 tight end heavy offenses is going back to an even heavier run game because you have so much weight in the middle of the field. It's going to be much easier to have a lot of run fits and great numbers in the box. So we're at a very interesting time in the NFL. We've gone so far into like passing being a thing that I think that maybe it's not this season, but next season or 2028, we're going to start seeing a flow back in the opposite direction of teams getting like a big ass running back like Jerome Bettis and running 3 tight end sets.
Brandon Jacobs.
Exactly. And just running the ball down people's throats. So I'm very curious to see what that is. Because if you can trap 5 to 6 DBs on the field when you have like 8 large men on the field, I mean, you're gonna run the crap out of the other team.
Okay. And I got a question for you, Ari, following up that. So I have never been a fan of the bend don't break defenses that we've seen. Like I remember when Patrick Graham was running it with the Giants, and like, that just bothered me. Are we gonna finally start seeing the end of these bend don't break defenses, or do you still think that that's something that we're gonna kind of roll out of where, yep, let's just not give up the big play. We'll always keep him in front of us. We'll just kind of give him those chunk plays, but bend don't break. Are we seeing a trend, in your opinion, away finally from that? And if we are, is it going to make a comeback?
We're definitely seeing a trend away from that, but it's actually because of something else. It's because of all of the analytics that have encroached into the NFL, starting with like Doug Peterson, where he kind of like stopped punting at 4th and short, just period. And you know, if it's like less than 4 yards, he wouldn't punt. Because analytics dictated as such. And analytics, like we all have seen for our entire lives watching football, bend don't break, don't work.
Nope.
And so yeah, but these shell concepts, and I think that that's a big part of it, the evolution of these shell concepts in defenses and the fact that they've been widely accepted kind of leads the prevent defense style just to fall by the wayside because it's just pointless. Will teams still be running out like guys just like 4 defensive backs on the boundaries late in games to make sure that guys can't run out of bounds? I'm sure. But I think we've been seeing a downtrend in prevent defenses lately, and I'd be very, very sad to see them come back because it doesn't matter who you're a fan of. It's just not fun to watch.
No, and they also like, I just feel like though they never look, you want to win football games. It's the 4th quarter. You have got to be able to stop the other team because those bend don't break. It's chunk play, touchdown. And then you've not only given up the points, you've wasted a tremendous amount of time off the clock as well. So the NFL needs as a winning formula, if you want to be able to win games, you need to be able to not bend, but not break. You need to be able to break the other team and get your offense back on the ball, especially if you're playing from behind and need that comeback. You cannot let the other team chunk play down the field and chew up 8 precious minutes. It just doesn't work.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. And good riddance if we're done with it. So yeah. So Ari, do you want to move into guess that number?
Yes, and now everybody, let's go ahead and move on over to our favorite segment, which is Guess That Number. This is our favorite segment. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So guys, we're happy to continue doing it. And it's definitely been a lot of fun. All right, to remind everyone, in terms of the numbers. So the numbers that we went with for this week, Ari, you went with 31, and I went with number 7. Okay, so reminder, 31 and 7. I believe that last week I guessed first, if memory serves me correctly. So Ari, would you like to go ahead and guess first?
By all means.
Okay, before we begin, as we always do this, before I give you any sort of hint, do you know who I'm thinking of at number 7?
Is it a wide receiver?
It is not.
Okay, so then no, I do not.
Okay, all right. So first hint is he doesn't just play one position. He plays multiple positions. Does that help you in any way?
Shaq Thompson?
No, it is not Shaq Thompson.
Isaiah Simmons?
It is not Isaiah Simmons.
He's a defensive player.
He is not a defensive player.
Okay, wow. All right. I'm really on the I'm really on the ball with this one, Ari. Number 7 plays multiple positions, so it's not a defensive player. It can't be a kicker because no kickers punt as well, so that wouldn't be multiple positions. It must be Taysom Hill. There we go.
Very good. Nicely done. My next hint for you, by the way, was going to be this player once signed a $140 million contract for that really in reality was a 1-year contract because it had 4 votable years at the end. But yes, you are absolutely correct. It is Taysom Hill, who, it's just so cool. Like, the guy's obviously not going to the Hall of Fame, right? That's obviously not happening. But the fact that the dude has lined up at QB, tight end, and running back, and when he's on the field, you never really know what you're going to get. He is really a one-of-a-kind player that I don't know if we're ever going to see a player quite like him again. And he's never going to be an elite quarterback, tight end, or running back. But there are so many times when deployed correctly and you need a pass thrown, a ball ran in short yardage, or a red zone touchdown caught from the tight end position, you can absolutely run out Taysom Hill, and he's electric and fun to watch. So that's why there are definitely other famous number 7s that were worn, including Michael Vick, but he was my choice at number 7 because I think he's just a cool player and a little bit different and a little bit out there. So Ari, nicely done.
That's a great one, Ari. I love it. That's exactly the kind of guy that, I really hope by doing this segment we can talk a little bit more about. He's just a fantastic football player and a player that makes his team better overall. I just wanted to add in one other thing, which is that he's the punter's personal protector, which is a hugely important role in and of itself. But the fact that you can then snap the ball directly to him is a huge card up the special teams coach's sleeve. So he contributes on multiple phases of the ball. Taysom Hill, what a football player, what a career at this point.
I agree. All right, Ari, that brings us over to your number. You chose 31.
Yes, I chose 31, mainly because he came up in last week's podcast. So that is my first clue to you.
Ooh, okay. And my first question would be, Did he wear this number throughout his entire career?
He played for one team for the entirety of his career, except for his final season. In his final season, he played for a different team and did not wear that number.
Okay. Final season, did not wear that number. Is he a offensive player?
He is a defensive player, and I'm ready to give you your second hint if you want it.
Okay, go for it, please.
He wore the same exact jersey that you're wearing, and he actually shares the initials with the guy that you're wearing the jersey of.
Oh my God. So Eli Manning. So
no. Sorry. I thought you were
wearing number 10, dude.
Oh no, okay, fine. So the 0 threw me off. I thought you were wearing your Jeremy Shockey jersey, so I apologize.
So he wore 80?
No. He was on the Giants, and he has the same initials as Jeremy Shockey. That's the clue. That was what's supposed to be the clue.
Oh, wait a minute. If we spoke about him last week, it must have been Jason Sehorn.
There we go. Yes. He came to mind. He was such a great quarterback. It was crazy that the NFL went over 2 decades without another white cornerback. And I just felt like he needed to be mentioned again, and it would be cool because you're a crazy ass Giants fan, Ari. But yeah, so yeah, that's the guy, Jason Sehorn. He was a fantastic football player, and anyone that isn't familiar with him, go check out his stats on Pro Football Reference or on NFL.com. And with that being said, I want to tell anyone who's a very serious fantasy football addict, or just likes football overall. A friend of mine built this new game, and the website is called fantasyeras.com, in which you can play fantasy football with a computer with another person, okay, throughout multiple eras of football. So basically, you can have Brett Favre, and you can have Ronnie Brown, and you could also have Amon-Ra St. Brown, all on the same team. And it's really cool. You can see how many Johnsons you have at wide receiver, because we all know there have been a ton. And it's just a very fun game for all of us who are missing football and missing fantasy football. So I just wanted to give a shout out and a brief overview of what you can get from fantasyeras.com. I am not big into games overall. It's just not how I spend my time. And honestly, I've played like 100 rounds of the game already. So I really enjoyed the experience, and I urge everyone else to give it a try, including you, Ari.
Well, I got to tell you, as you were saying it, I literally looked up the website for the first time. I have not yet even heard about this prior to you bringing it up, but I am so happy that you brought it to my attention, because this looks really, really, really fun, and something that really is just right up my alley. And from what it seems here is that it goes, the database has information all the way back to 1999. From what I see in the small print. So, wow, that's pretty cool. So essentially, it's not going to have people prior to that, but I would say certainly for our modern day game, this will be very cool. And I am very excited to go ahead and try this out. And Ari, I know this wasn't done this way on purpose, but this was actually our first unofficial ad read. So,
yes, there you go. Yeah.
So if you would like your website, your game, your product to be mentioned and get exposure on the RE Squared podcast, please drop us a line, whether it's through social media, email, WhatsApp, you name it. Get in touch with us, guys, and we will be happy in the same way that we just product plays for fantasyeras.com, which is definitely a game that I suggested you all check out. I would strongly suggest that if you are interested in building out your own brand or your own product, reach out to us today, and we will be happy to do a Fantasy Eras, in this case, shout out for you. And I'd like to say, you know what, Ari? I'm going to take this even a step further. And Fantasy Eras, I hope you appreciate this. This week's Gets That Number was brought to you by fantasyeras.com. fantasyeras.com, where you can go ahead and play head-to-head against either a computer or your friends and really expand and build out your football knowledge. So go ahead and visit fantasyeras.com today.
That is quite the shout out, Ari, and I love how you do those ad reads. It's so official. It gives me like a tingle in my spine the way that you pulled that off, like off cuff. That was awesome. That was awesome. So I just know that we said that we were going to close out with a bit of a teaser for the wide receiver rankings, and there's so many guys, and I know I was supposed to send you a few names for us to discuss, and I got too focused on other things. There's so many receivers. I had trouble even doing 15. I made my list last week and it had 21 names on it. And then I have no idea. And I've been looking for that list. I don't know where I saved it. If it was on Word, if it was on Drive, it was in, some kind of AI. I have no idea where it is, but basically what I can tell you.
The government seized it, Ari.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most likely scenario here, or it went by the wayside of Brandon Smoker. Who knows?
Nice.
But the bottom line is that what I want to put out is in these 8 guys, and we'll get into it more next week. Is I realize that there's a bunch of Ohio State guys, and there are 2 guys named T-Mac. One Ted McMillan and one Terry McLaurin.
Nice.
I only realized this because it confused AI when I said T-Mac, and I meant Terry McLaurin, and they put Ted McMillan. I was like, no, he's later on my list, but it's the same. Anyways, that was very cool, and I'll tease one thing about my list for next week, and that is that Malik Neighbors is higher than Garrett Wilson on my list.
Oh, nice. First of all, I'm happy to hear that. And yes, unbiasedly to our teams for a moment, I do believe that Malik Neighbors is a better wide receiver than Garrett Wilson is. I do think that we need him to come back fully healthy from his injury. And I'm hoping he's able to buck the trend of wide receivers that come back from knee injuries that need a little bit more ramp-up time and don't quite look like themselves. So I'm hoping when we do get Neighbors back this season, we do get him back at full Malik Neighbors form. But yeah, Malik Neighbors, if he can come back and recover accordingly, he has the potential to put his name right up there with the Justin Jeffersons, Jamar Chases, of the world. I believe that he can be in that conversation, and we'll see how that plays out.
So, Ari, I just want to add one thing for anyone that doesn't know this. Do you know how many rookie receivers have ever had 90-plus receptions, 1,200-plus yards, and 5-plus touchdowns in NFL history?
Not offhand, but if I just had to ballpark guess, I'm going to say that list contains no more than 8 wide receivers on it.
Oh, it contains 2, and those guys are Malik Neighbors and Puka Nacua.
Oh,
yeah, and Malik Neighbors is the only rookie receiver to have 100 receptions, and he had 7 touchdowns and still over 1,200 yards. The rookie season was unparalleled, and he looks to be elite and something else.
Absolutely. And what's slightly embarrassing is I actually knew all of those factoids about Malik Neighbors, and I'm a little embarrassed and possibly considering removing my Giants jersey for the last few minutes of this podcast in shame. But there's no question that he's going to be an awesome wide receiver. By the way, guys, just in terms of teasing for next week and the wide receivers rankings, we are going to be ranking number 1 wide receivers. If we were doing it across the board, all wide receivers, that list conservatively would need to have like 50 people on it. So this is going to be number 1, or at least teams number 1 wide receivers. We're going to do, Ari, we said we're going to do a total of 16 in the end, right? That's what we were going to whittle it down to?
Yeah, we're going to try to do, around 15 to make to make it most efficient. And we'll do it into tiers, and we'll try to get through as many names as possible. There are just so many good receivers in the NFL. It's really crazy.
It absolutely is. And you know what's even crazier, Ari, is like we now find ourselves, and it's crazy that we're already here where, OTAs are done, mandatory mini camps are over, general managers are eating up boxes of Tums like nobody's business because they are all fearing that phone call that we have seen in the past few weeks come many, 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 many times. And we are almost approaching, we're now in July, which means it is officially Hall of Fame game month, officially training camp starting. And I cannot believe that we are already back at it, Ari. And I am so excited to bring Ari Squared to our listeners with a brand new season, training camps, preseason games, and then, of course, the actual real NFL season. And we will blink, Ari, and it will be upon us. So I am so excited to continue bringing the awesome content that we are bringing to our listeners. And Ari, it's just always so much fun to record with you, my man.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to ask if it'll blink and it'll be upon us like Gino was on his girlfriend the other day.
Oh!
But before we forget, we have to pick our numbers for next week. And I just wanted to mention that so we can do that quickly. I'm going to choose number 4. And just so you should know, it's not going to be a quarterback.
Okay, number 4. And it's not going to be a quarterback. Okay, I will put that in my notes so that we have that Ari chose number 4. Now, what number do I want to pick?
Oh, and it's not Ernie Nevers, which I learned as someone in the NFL. Was historically very good player.
I had never heard of that name before.
Oh, there we go. I just thought it was a cool name.
All right, I am going to go with, you know what? I'm going to go with number 10, but because I'm wearing a number 10 jersey right now, but it will not be Eli Manning. Okay.
There we go.
I don't, it's funny, just for our listeners to know. So Ari and I work this number system a little differently. Ari thinks of a player and then suggests the number. I think of a number and then find a player. So I think it's a little bit of a yin kind of yang type of situation.
It kind of also, it really encapsulates both of us and how we do things. So it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that really does kind of sum it up. And you know what else we're going to sum up? This episode. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Ari Squared. Please go ahead and go on YouTube, give us a subscribe, go on Instagram, give us a follow, go on your podcast platforms, hit an automatic download, leave 5-star reviews wherever they are available to be left. And of course, if you are enjoying our content, guys, go ahead and share it with your friends. Do a good deed today and share it with your friends. So in closing, happy Canada's Day, which was yesterday, also known as Bobby Bonilla Day. Shout out to you as a Mets fan.
Bonilla.
But to him, that too. And of course, wishing all of our American listeners a happy 4th of July. And on behalf of us both here, peace. We out.